Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be looking at a really interesting and very often misunderstood topic, why Native Americans were historically referred to as being, quote-unquote, red. It's a term that's deeply rooted in history, but it's also evolved over time. Today we're going to look at two primary reasons behind this designation, skin tone observation and the cultural usage of ochre dye. So the first reason revolves around early European observations of Native American skin tone. When Europeans first encountered the indigenous peoples of the Americas, they often described their skin as, quote-unquote, reddish. But this description wasn't necessarily accurate for all native tribes. Skin tones, of course, varied widely across different regions and tribes, ranging from lighter to darker complexions. To give you a clearer picture, let's consider some specific examples. In the Northeast, tribes like the Iroquois and the Algonquians had a range of skin tones. In the Southwest, so did tribes like the Navajo and the Hopi. Despite this diversity, European explorers and settlers often simplified these observations. Wanting a world that was simpler, they used a single descriptor, red. This phenomenon wasn't, of course, unique to the Americas. Europeans had a long history of categorizing people they encountered based on skin color. For instance, they called African people black and Asian people yellow or brown. These color-coded terms were oversimplifications and didn't really accurately reflect the rich diversity of skin tones within these groups. This observation of skin color was often steeped in Eurocentric perspectives. They were simplified color labels, and they laid the groundwork for what would eventually evolve into more formalized systems of racial classification. This process of categorization wasn't just about physical characteristics. It also involved attributing certain traits and behaviors to these groups, often in a very hierarchical manner. Unfortunately, these early observations and classifications undergirded the development of systemic racism. By grouping people based on perceived skin color and assigning them certain characteristics, Europeans made a framework that justified unequal treatment and discrimination. This framework was used to rationalize the colonization, subjugation, and exploitation of various peoples around the world. In the context of Native Americans, being labeled as red was part of a broader narrative that portrayed them as fundamentally different and other. This othering process was a key element of the colonial mindset. It enabled Europeans to see Native Americans not as equals, but as subjects to be converted, controlled, and in many cases displaced. These racial classifications also manifested in various forms of media and propaganda. Native Americans were often depicted in ways that emphasized their redness, quote-unquote, and other stereotypical traits. These depictions reinforced prejudiced views and helped maintain the social and political order that privileged Europeans over indigenous peoples. Understanding the historical context of why Native peoples were called red helps us see how deeply ingrained these racial categories are in our history. It's a sobering reminder of how seemingly simple observations can have profound impacts on societal structures. But there was also a second reason why the red designation, and it's closely tied to cultural practices among many native tribes. Red ochre, a natural clay earth pigment, was extensively used by these tribes. This pigment, rich in iron oxide, has a striking red color and was used in various forms of body art and decoration. Red ochre was applied to the skin for ceremonial purposes, as war paint and as daily adornment. It was used to dye clothing. It was used to decorate tools and artifacts. This cultural practice was widespread, with evidence of ochre use found in archaeological sites across North America. By applying red ochre, many native tribes created a distinct visual identity, and this was easily noticeable to European observers. The prominent use of red in body paint and decoration could have reinforced the European perception of Native Americans as red. This was not just a casual observation, but a recognition of a significant cultural expression. So if we understand how red ochre was part of the designation red, this provides a kind of richer context to the term. It highlights how cultural practices shape identity, and how these practices were perceived by outsiders. The term red, then, might not just be about skin color. It might even be reclaimed as a reflection of cultural traditions and the meanings that have been attached to them by the native peoples themselves. Before we wrap up, it's important to address a very, very hyper-modern issue related to this historical context, the controversy surrounding the name of the Washington Redskins. For many years, the term Redskins was used as the name of this team. It is, however, widely considered offensive and derogatory towards Native Americans. The term Redskins perpetuates a stereotype and reduces Native peoples to a single, often dehumanizing label. It's a reminder of a time when Native peoples were viewed through a narrow, prejudiced lens by European colonizers. The use of such terms in modern context disregards the rich cultural heritage and the diverse identities of the plethora of Native American communities. Over the years, many Native groups and allies had protested against the use of the term Redskins. They argued it was not just a harmless name, but rather a perpetuation of racial insensitivity and historical trauma. In 2020, the team finally announced it would change its name, and now it is called the Washington Commanders. The change was a significant step towards acknowledging and rectifying the misuse of Native identity in popular culture. It serves as a reminder that the names and labels we use carry weight and impact. Respecting the identities and cultures of all peoples is crucial for fostering a more inclusive society. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of history. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. I am listening to all of your comments and incorporating them into my future videos. Thank you so much.